on the record. Great. We'll now call our February 1st, 2022 public township meeting to order. We'll first start with the salute to the flag. Please stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag, United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, with that, Jamie, could you please read the sunshine statement?
Be advised that proper notice has been given by the Township Council in accordance with the Sunshine Law in the following manner. Notice advertised in the Burlington County Times and Camden Carrier Post on January 12th, 2022, and posted on the bulletin board on the same date. Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Jenny?
Here.
Ms. Pareo?
Here.
Mr. Lyon?
Here.
Mr. Burrell?
Here. Good evening, everybody. Before we begin, we just have our pre-action item statement. Please note that there may be limited discussion about the agenda items voted on today because they are either routine or have been discussed in our prior work session meeting. At the prior work session meetings, the council debates and diligently analyzes the details of every action, all in conjunction with our professionals and staff. Today at this public meeting, we are taking formal action after hours of those discussions. And as a point of order, we're also going to walk on an executive session, which will be later on this evening, which will be resolution 2022-39 to discuss potential litigation regarding Oprah. That will be after public comment, but just for the record. So Jamie did our roll call. First up, we have ordinances on second reading. This is ordinance 2022-01, calendar year 2022. Ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish the cap bank. This happens every year here in town, so we'll have a public hearing on that agenda item only. So I ask for a motion to open the floor to the public.
Motion, Lynn.
I'll second.
That's Marla. Just, I don't know if it's your microphone or where you're seated, but it's hard to hear you. So either give us a little more projection, maybe check your microphone, but we did hear your second. So all in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Floor is now open to public hearing on ordinance 2022-1 and that ordinance only. Is there any comments from the public? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to close the floor.
Motion.
In a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. The floor is now closed to the public. I'll now entertain a motion to adopt on second reading to adopt ordinance 2022-01.
Motion.
I'll second.
Jamie, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Jenny?
Aye.
Ms. Pareo?
Aye.
Mr. Lyon?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye. The ayes have it and the ordinance is adopted. Next up, we have resolution 2022-32, appointing qualified purchasing agent, also known as a QPA, and increasing the bid and quote threshold accordingly. Just for the record, an earlier version of the resolution had the bid threshold at 40,000. That was a clerical error and now has been corrected to 44,000. That was provided to council this morning. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adopt resolution 2022-32.
So moved, Tom Lyon.
I'll second, Marlo Smith.
Thank you. Jamie, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Jenny?
Aye.
Ms. Pareo?
Aye.
Mr. Lyon?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye. The ayes have it. The resolution adopted. Next up, we have items in our consent agenda. This includes resolution 2022-33 all the way to the resolution 2022-38. Is there any objections to the items in the resolution agenda, in the consent agenda? Seeing no objections, I'll ask for a motion to approve the resolutions in the consent agenda, please.
Motion.
Marla, can you second real quick, please?
Yeah, I'll second.
Great. And Jamie, could you call the roll for the consent agenda, please?
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Jenny?
Aye.
Ms. Pareo,
Aye.
Mr. Lyon,
Aye.
Mr. Burrell.
Aye, the ayes have it. Resolutions within the consent agenda are adopted. Next up, we have our motion. I'll have a motion accepting the report from our tax collector and township clerk.
So moved, Tom Lyon.
Second, Virginia.
Jamie, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Jenny,
Aye.
Ms. Pareo,
Aye.
Mr. Lyon,
Aye.
Mr. Burrell.
Aye. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Next up is a motion granting a mercantile license to the two businesses listed in our agenda. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion, Lynn. I'll
Second.
second. Marlo Smith.
And Jamie, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Jenny,
Aye.
Ms. Pareo,
Aye.
Mr. Lyon,
Aye.
Mr. Burrell.
The ayes have it and the motion carries. And that includes our motions. So next up, we have our reports. First up, our reports from our emergency services folks. That's our fire department and EMS. So is anyone here from the fire department? If you are, if you could just raise your hand. I don't recognize any names. Do you, Jamie, see anybody?
No, I don't.
Okay. What about our folks from the EMS? I don't see anybody, so we will look forward to them at our next meeting. And next up, we have our first report from our interim administrator. Joe, what do you got for us? Anything good?
No, not really. Also, the first week I really just becoming acclimated with the folks here. The staff couldn't be more accommodating, but we're starting into the budget, probably in earnest toward the latter part of the week. The mayor really started up with a lot of the background information that I need to get going. So probably, like I said, by week 7 early next week, we'll really be high gear into it. I'll be meeting with the auditors tomorrow, becoming familiar with them. And, but again, the staff's been wonderful. Jamie, particularly.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We look forward to the budget. When we get that in, I know the deadline changes every year, but next month or so, when we have.
I believe it's on or about March 1st. It's near that first meeting in March, Councilman.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, we'll make sure we allot a lot of time for that, for the budget. So we're looking forward to it. Thank you. And if there's anything we can be assistance of course, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have report from our township clerk, Jamie Eggers.
I
Jamie,
have no report tonight. Thank you.
great. And next up, we have a report from our mayor, Mayor Catherine.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Hey, once again, I'd like to just say a big thank you to Delran Public Works, to the Delran Police and Fire Departments, and the Delran Emergency Squad for their incredible work over the weekend during the storm. We are so Delran proud to have such an incredible group of people that are dedicating themselves to keeping our Delran family safe. I can't tell you how important that is. You see our roads, and you also may not know that there are crews that are staying overnight so that their response time would be faster should something dramatic happen during that storm. And second, today is the beginning of Black History Month, and this year's focus is Black health and wellness, and highlights the accomplishments of Black doctors and researchers throughout history and even today. From Dr. Daniel Hale Williams, who completed the first successful human heart transplant and opened the first Black hospital, to Delran's own Assemblyman, Dr. Herb Conaway, who was the director of the Burlington County Commission of Health. And he's helped us all navigate these last 2 years during this pandemic and all the challenges that it presented. I'd also like to encourage all residents to support Black-owned businesses and seek out our local libraries and county resources for more information on ways to celebrate and learn more. And that's my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Next up, we have a report from our solicitor, Sal Siciliano. Sal?
No report for public session. Matters for closed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have a report from members of council. First up is Councilwoman Virginia Parejo. Councilwoman?
No report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Councilman Marlo Smith. Councilman?
Yeah, just a quick one. As we all know, there's a ton of snow still out there. And, you have thawing during the day and, sometimes the temperatures go below freezing at night. So in early mornings and late evenings, just be careful as you're navigating either sidewalks or if you're walking in the streets. I just wanted to make that quick reminder to our residents and the report.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Councilman Lynn Jenny. Councilman?
I just want to echo the mayor's comments, both on the great job our municipal people are doing, everyone involved, as well as Black History Month. It's an opportunity for us to become more aware of others and to go out and build bridges. That's my report.
Thank you, Councilman. Next up, is, Mr. Vice President Tom Lyon. Mr. Vice President. You're up.
Thank you. Yeah, I forgot I was on mute. Thank you very much. Just like to echo the work that our DPW and all emergency services did. That was a tricky storm with the temperatures and the wind and everything. I think they did a commendable job. And by Monday, the roads were really, really, really good. So hats off to them and everybody else at Delran Township. And let's try to keep healthy and stay healthy as we try to navigate hopefully what will be the end of this pandemic. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. For my report, just want to echo comments of my council folks. Public Works did a fantastic job on the roads as they always do. So we want to thank them for the hard work. Often while we are sleeping in or enjoying some hot chocolate by the fire, they are here in the cold weather, out on the streets, away from their family, making sure our roads are safe. And the same goes for all the first responders here in town who, were watching the storm coming, who worked late shifts, who were standing by at the fire department, EMS, police station as well. So we thank them. There's a lot of folks behind the scenes. So we thank them for keeping us safe during the storm. And that's all I got. So next we'll go to public comment. So I'll ask for a motion to open the floor to the public comment.
Motion, Lynn.
A second, please. Second would be great. I think Marla, you're trying, but
Second, Tom Lyon.
thanks. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Our floor is now open to public comment. Before we begin, I'll just read the quick rules. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and you will be recognized here on Zoom. At that point, you will be able to speak. Please state your name and address for the record. An individual speaker should be allotted 5 minutes of time, and all statements are part of the public record, which means that's both written and video recorded and cannot be redacted or retracted after the fact. So with that, if anyone has any public comments, please raise your hand on Zoom. You'll be recognized. Ms. Littleton, Jamie, please. Can you unmute Ms. Littleton? Or Patrick Duff's coming up. That's fine. Mr. Duff, can you hear us?
Oh, she's here too. Barbara Littleton's in there too. Sorry. I think
All
I
right.
clicked on
You
both.
do Barbara first. Can you take Mr. Duff out of the queue right now? We'll get back to him.
Yep.
And just do Ms. Littleton. I think I saw her hand first. Let me know when you're good. All right, Ms. Littleton, can you hear us? Ms. Littleton, you're muted.
There you go.
There you go.
I got you.
I was getting there. My computer just didn't want to help me out there.
right.
Thank you, guys. Barbara Littleton, Delran. Prefer not to say the actual address. I have had people show up to my house. So, but I did have some questions, and I know the council is going to feel like we're regurgitating this stuff again. But definitely some other thoughts came to mind with the Dunphy lawsuit, and I just wanted to ask some questions. Were any of the council members also zoning board members that voted on the Dunphy lawsuit?
You want an answer now, or would you like to use your 5 minutes?
No, let me go ahead and get the answer now.
To Lynn, if you want to answer, but two of the members, nobody at the time of the settlement were members of the zoning board at the time of the settlement. Lynn and Marla were previous members of the zoning board. And actually, so was Tom years ago, right, Tom?
So at the time of the settlement, they were not zoning board members?
No, they were
that what I'm
council
hearing?
members.
They were council members, but not
Yes.
zoning board.
You can't serve on the zoning board and be a council member at the same time.
Okay. So that answered one of the questions. Did you guys, I know you guys talked about the insurance deductible. Did you guys do an analysis and break it down by the different claims against you to identify what the total deductible would be if you went through the insurance?
Would you like me to answer now, or you want to keep going?
Please. No, please.
There was a memo prepared by our solicitor's office that reviewed each claim individually. To the extent, I haven't read it in 9 months, so I
That's
can't
fine.
tell you
Yeah.
what exactly was in it at the time, but it reviewed, it was a cost benefit analysis about each claim.
About each claim. Okay. Yeah, that was good enough. I don't need specifics. So let's switch tactics a little bit and get off of that. So have a question about the communications director. If I heard you correctly in previous meetings, you've said that the communication, well, no employees other than those who touch cash are bonded individually. Am I correct?
I believe there was something to that effect. Yes, Sal
Yeah.
gave it tried to attempt to explain the differences based off his general knowledge. Yeah. You have
Okay.
2 minutes remaining, just for the record.
So if the and she is a contractor, am I correct? She's not an employee of the township.
Yes, she's 1099. Yep.
So if she says something on social media in her duties as the communications director, and the township gets sued, how's the township going to pay out that claim? Are they just going to pay out the claim, or how's that going to work? Because you can't go through your insurance bond to pay out that claim.
I mean, Ms. Littleton, I can't comment. I'm sure Sal will agree on potential claims and different hypos. I mean, it really depends on the facts of the situation. To be honest, what's covered under her insurance, what's covered under our insurance. There's a whole discipline of lawyers who figure that out.
So does she have insurance? Because I know there's been an Oprah request asking for that insurance, and we have yet to see anything.
You got 1 minute, Mayor. Does she have insurance?
Yes.
Is it administrative? Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So I guess the next question is, what was her experience prior to last year when the mayor hired her to be the communications director? What was her experience to get that position? Because I looked at, I think there was an RFP put out for that last year, and it said that they had to meet certain requirements, experience requirements. What was her experience?
Mayor.
Okay, so in general, last year was to serve as a proof of concept. And that was done on a simpler basis because the pay was much smaller. And her experience was varied in numerous businesses, doing numerous things. As you know, as an entrepreneur myself in the past, I had a background that was varied from job to job, industry to industry, in various phases of the businesses, most of which I owned. And that was what the basis was. Those folks that do their own thing, so to speak, and work in various businesses with various job descriptions tend to be able to handle these kind of things. We did it as a proof of concept last year, and it worked out very well, in my opinion.
So according to the Oprah request that we
Ms.
got,
Littleton, Ms. Littleton, for the record, so this is your last question, please.
thank you. She had her business license approved like 4 days before the contract was signed. So I'm sort of kind of confused as to what business she was doing before. And that's the end of my questions.
Thank you, Ms. Littleton. I'm not in a mayor, you're in a position to answer that. I'm not sure if it's an administrative question. You don't, okay. Thank you, Ms. Littleton. Appreciate it. Next up, Mr. Duff, do you still want to? Yeah, okay. If you could switch out to Mr. Duff, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, just what 1 second, Mr. Duff. Can you just, Jamie, can you just bring Ms. Littleton out? Floor. I can't hear you, Jamie.
Give me 1 second. I think I clicked on it. It's just, I think, taking a second. Okay.
That's fine. I
You
just
should
want
be
to make sure that
good.
every resident says uninterrupted. Okay, Mr. Duff, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Just a quick question. The township, I know you put out the different statements. You put out like the trash statement. You put out the statements for the mayor about the non-resident. You put out all the different statements. I just wonder, is there some sort of a, when there is a council meeting and there is a statement read into the record, is there a, do the council always post these statements?
Normally, they're all posted. Yes, it's an administrative function.
Do you remember any statements that you read into the record that weren't posted for the public to see?
Almost every statement, I believe, goes to our administrative team, and it goes online most of the time.
The only statement that I can identify that hasn't been posted was the statement that you read into the record about the Dunphy settlement, which showed that there was a $300,000 payout. Now, don't you think that would have been a pretty important statement to tell the public about, since the township voted to, basically pay out racketeering allegations? Don't you think that would have been a statement that should have been posted online?
I was under the impression it was online, so the extent that it's not.
Council
it should be.
President, I'm sorry to interrupt.
One
but that is
second,
part
one
of-
second, 1 second. But to the extent that it was considered valuable information for the public, that's why I prepared the 2-page statement and read it into the record at a public council meeting.
Yeah, but
So-
you didn't post it online. I mean,
Okay.
it was important enough to post online that some non-resident, it was me, was claiming there was bribery and coercion, right? That was important enough for the mayor to make a post about. Okay, it was important enough for the mayor to say that he's going to start an investigation into things that he's saying, never happened, even though the council president said that what you did was unethical. Mayor, don't you think that your post about the non-resident claiming there's bribery and coercion, and your other post saying that there's allegations being made against people in the township, don't you think that sparked that hit blog against me?
I have no idea what sparked that. I can say that that what's happening. What
Okay,
you,
let me just finish my comment, because I know I don't have much time.
Mhm.
What Barb Littleton was trying to get at is Lynn, Jenny, and Marlo Smith, you were both on the zoning board and you voted against the Dunphy variance. You voted in an arbitrary and capricious matter. The judge in the Superior Court stated it very clearly. There's no way you should even allow the variance hearing to happen. Okay, you pulled the permits of Dunphy, but you didn't pull the permits of anybody else, right? But here's the key. You both sat on the board that denied Dunphy's variance, and then you both voted for the settlement as council people that you were named in the allegations as being a part of the conspiracy against Dunphy. So imagine that. You should have recused yourselves from that vote. So I think that an investigation should be started into that resolution that was passed, because Marlo Smith and Lynn Jenny's votes should be voided. They should have recused themselves from voting, since they were named in serious criminal allegations. You talk about a conflict of interest. That is a pretty serious conflict of interest, I would say.
You got 1 minute and 30 seconds, Mr. Duff.
I appreciate that. So, let's just say that the liability to your township, okay, that has been caused by the mayor. Let's say when he's a mayor-elect, he's caught trespassing on the Dunphy property, right? You got the settlement that goes 300K. You have the lawyer, the solicitor getting 35,000 for that. You could have went to the insurance company, but I've talked to the people at the GIFs. Let me read what the people at the GIFs actually wrote to me in an email. It says, when a claim is received, the insurance provider thoroughly investigates the allegations contained within the complaint. If the investigation is determined that the actions of those involved were illegal or resulted from willful misconduct of their role within the municipality, coverage can and will be denied. So what they're saying is, if the mayor, if it was found that these allegations of racketeering and trespassing and these other things were true, the insurance company wasn't going to pay it out anyway. So part of the exposure was the fact that the insurance company doesn't cover illegal activity. It doesn't cover conspiracy to harm people, to inflict economic distress on people during a pandemic. So I do want
You got 20 seconds, Mr. Dunn.
to call for an investigation into the fact, number one, you didn't print the Dunphy statement. Print that now. Print the statement that you guys show me. You said it was printed somewhere. Let's see where it was printed. I know it's not printed. You didn't print it. It was a cover up, is what it was. You used taxpayers' money to cover up. You spent $300,000 of taxpayers' money. You didn't report it.
Mr. Duff, your time has expired. Wrap up, please.
There is a claims liability roadmap online, the BureauCodeGIF.org. You can go to the thing. It says notice of claim received by municipality, which you never received a notice of claim. You never
All right,
let
Mr. Duff, your time has expired.
filed. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Jamie, could you remove from the floor? All right, thank you, Mr. Duff, for your statements. I can't speak to why the statement wasn't on the website. Can we figure that out, Mayor?
Yeah, if you want to, you have a moment, because what he's referring to were in the mayor's message, and they were directly from me communicating with the residents. And your statement was read into the video. I believe it's included in the minutes.
Yes.
So that's the official council record. And certainly the videotape is the official council record. So nothing was hidden.
Great, thank you, Mayor. And with respect to, there was no portion of, maybe stepping style, so tell me if I'm not, but we did not consider the fact.
Yeah,
Part of the
can I just interject? I'm sorry, Mr.
Go ahead.
That self-serving statement by Mr. Duff was full of so many inaccuracies and incorrect assumptions and conclusions that I don't think it's appropriate to attempt to try to answer these falsehoods. I mean, it's just a one-sided self-serving monologue of falsehoods. And I don't think it's appropriate for either Mr. Jenny or Mr. Smith to be called upon, in part to answer these spurious allegations against them. So I think for the sanctity of the record and to maintain a clean record, it's all very transparent. It's documented. We know what Mr. Duff is trying to do, and it's not appropriate, I don't believe, for either Mr. Jenny or Mr. Smith to comment.
Thank you, Sal. The one thing, just at no point was this an attempt to cover up. If in fact, if it was an attempt to cover up, there wouldn't have been a statement read into the record to the extent that it was. So there's a 2-page statement. It took me 10 minutes to read. And part of the calculus was not the fact that there's no misconduct, because the insurance company ultimately paid into the pot as well at the end. So they found that they wouldn't have done that if they believed it was willful or misconduct as alleged. So anyway, we'll continue moving on. And next is Mr. Egan, I believe, had his hand up. Mr. Egan, the floor is yours.
How you doing tonight?
Good. We can hear you loud and clear.
Good. Tony Egan, 108 Sully Lane.
Thank you.
I'd like to yield my time to Pat Duff.
No. Speaker.
Sal, can you address that?
Each speaker. It's not a legislative body. This is not parliamentary procedure. This is not the halls of Congress or the floor of the New Jersey State Assembly. Each individual speaker has time. If Mr. Egan would like to make a statement, he has 5 minutes to do so. He can't yield or assign his time. That's not appropriate.
So what do you have to hide, Mr. Feliciano?
No-
If you
nothing,
don't want
sir.
to, if you don't want to talk to Mr. Duff again.
I have nothing to hide, so you have 5 minutes, sir.
Okay. Well, I'll take my 5 minutes and just tell council that the Public Works Department did a great job with the snow removal. They did a fabulous job. Got nothing but praise for them. And since I can't yield my time, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. Appreciate your comments. I'm sure Public Works appreciate that as well. Thanks. Next up is Mr. Oberg. Mr. Oberg, can you hear us?
Yes, can you
Yep.
hear me?
Yep, we can. The floor is yours.
All right, speaking about which the lawsuit or settlement that was brought up, you guys have an opportunity when a lawsuit or a settlement or any type of legal action is going to be taken against the township to, normally you probably should go right to your insurance company because they're the ones who will be paying out. How long did you wait to notify your insurance company that there was a issue and that there was a possibility of a lawsuit?
Honestly, I don't have that information in front of me. Mayor, do you? I believe.
I do not.
Yeah, I don't have. Jeff would be the one, our administrator, handled all of that. So I don't have that in front of us.
So it wasn't immediately, and it was probably after the settlement, you reached out to the insurance company then. Would that be correct in stating that?
No, apparently not.
Sal, do you?
No, that's not correct. I think that's a mischaracterization. Mr. Burrell, you answered that the individual with that knowledge is Mr. Hatcher. It may very well be immediate. There's nothing to indicate in the record that it wasn't immediate. There's nothing in the record other than the question from Mr. Oberg to indicate that it was after the settlement. The question itself is just full of mischaracterizations, and
No,
the record is being muddied by an improper question. So I'm shaking my head, Mr. Burrell, for the benefit of the record
I
because
understand.
it's inappropriate. There's nothing to indicate that it wasn't immediate or timely or that it was after the fact. These are just all incorrect conclusions.
So you're saying if it turns out that it was after the fact and that you will apologize publicly for saying I'm muddying the record and all, because to me, as soon as a claim comes in, your insurance company should have been notified immediately, and that probably was not the case. But I'll move away from that aspect. You have two people who were named in that suit. Mr. Duff even brought that up. They should have abstained from a vote on that. They were part of the name in the lawsuit or settlement that they basically got to vote on getting out of trouble. I mean, they basically should have stepped aside and said, I will abstain from this because I am personally involved with this. It has a personal stake to them because if it's found out that, there's an issue, there could be a criminal complaint against them. So they should have recused themselves from voting on that at all. Like it's a matter
2
of,
minutes.
ethics. Like, you're involved with it, you were named in it. You should have stepped aside and not dealt with it. Same thing with making a settlement. If you guys are negotiating a settlement, the people who are named in the suit shouldn't be the ones negotiating the settlement because they're going to work at their best interest to make sure if there was wrongdoing, it gets covered up. It should have been negotiated out by somebody other than the people named in the suit. You have the mayor, you have Sal, you have, your zoning. All those people were named in it. They voted on it and they made the settlement go through. I mean, that reeks. That's horrible. And that's all I have to say on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oberg. Next up is Ms. Morgan.
Yes, hi, are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. How are you? Floor is
I'm
yours.
great. Hi, thank you so much. I don't really have a specific question. It's just more of a comment. I moved to Delran about a year ago, and I guess it just seems like things are just written with scandal. I move here, I'm seeing all these things on Facebook, and now I'm hearing about these lawsuits. And I guess as I said, I don't really have a specific question, but it's just I just want you to know that I feel that there's just a lot of mistrust and I mean I if there's anyone who can, I guess, speak to maybe just how you plan to rebuild some of the mistrust that I and perhaps other people feel with everything that's going on. Thank you so much. And I'm 104 Fox Chase Drive in case you need that information. Thank you.
Thanks. Jimmy, you can unmute. Well, I appreciate your concern and understand where you're coming from. I totally understand it. I think, I can't change the minds of the people. The only thing that I can do and council can do in this situation is continue to provide services that people want, and continue every day to come to this job, do the work that we do as volunteers to make the community a better place. And hopefully that builds the trust that you deserve, rightfully so, and the residents deserve to trust their local government. Hopefully we can deliver that. Any other comments or questions from the public? And with that, I'll ask for a motion to close the floor.
So moved, Tom Lyon.
And a second, please.
I'll second Marlo Smith.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Our floor is now closed to public comment. Now I ask for.
Council President,
Yeah.
excuse
Go ahead,
me.
Mayor.
Would it be okay if I just made a comment or two?
Yeah, I don't see any objections from council, so yeah, that's fine.
So, I've been holding back on commenting on all the goings on, and especially in light of Ms. Morgan's comment. It's not my nature to comment on things that are hypothetical or whatever. But I just can't sit back and listen to the manipulation of facts that have been strewn about. Sometimes when people are accusing someone else of doing something, you have to ask yourself, what did they know and when did they know it? The accusations that were made aren't even issues anymore. They continue to be discussed, but they're not even issues. Specifically, one of the accusers was told back in the beginning of December by the Department of Community Affairs that there was no violation of law and ethics when it came to the awarding of a contract and the way we collected the money. The deputy director of the local government services for the DCA answered those questions. They're available through Oprah Machine. You could see that awarding the entertainment contract was not a violation. That was December 2nd. We continued to hear about it well after that. And they also said that the Carly Lloyd event may be considered a special event, and therefore the 2018 dedication by rider was sufficient to govern the monies that were in and out. But even in the face of the state agencies, who were the experts, saying that we did nothing wrong, there was a refusal to acknowledge that truth. And at no point was that response from the state reported back to the residents. Instead, people continue to ask the same questions and state incorrect information in blogs and in meetings, even though the answers had already been provided to them. So the other thing that's really important is the cost of the township for all of this, above and beyond the stress to the township employees and staff and the like. This is costing the township a fortune. When you request the numerous Oprah requests that we've been receiving, this is not something that is inexpensive. Remember, this all started with questioning the sponsorship of the fireworks. That was about $12,000. And I get it. That was a question the I don't believe it was a legitimate concern, but that's my opinion. But right now, all of the OPA requests that we've received in October, November, and December, this does not include January, all those bills, because every OPA request has to be reviewed by our attorney to make sure that personal information isn't revealed, HIPAA violations don't occur, any attorney-client privilege information. So every single page has to be reviewed. And that cost the township residents, the taxpayers of Delran, so far, not including January, $20,973.71. I just don't want people to think that this is not costing the residents anything for that when accusations are made that are unfounded and some of which are already been proven to be untrue. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be an end in sight. I've personally requested some information, but until that comes up, I'm not going to know. I'm not going to be able to report on what I've received back from the state from my personal request for some information. Secondly, the event was not as accused a political or campaign event. No money was given to anyone running for office nor collected for any candidate. The First Lady of New Jersey attended the Carly Lloyd event because she and the governor are co-owners of the Gotham Football Club, as well as personal friends of Carly. It was said that it was a campaign event. In fact, the only two elected officials who even set foot on the stage were Congressman Andy Kim and me, and neither of us were running for office. Most of the elected officials that were there that night were never on stage. Those who attended met with and presented resolutions and proclamations to Carly backstage. But it's always appropriate to have our county and state representatives in attendance, as they also serve our township. 3 of those elected officials, coincidentally, are Delran residents, and they represent the residents, but we're also grateful when they can attend and support the community, even though they weren't on stage. So I would also remind, and I am not an attorney and never claimed to be, but I'd also remind everybody that's out there that the Dunphy litigation is settled litigation. There is not one single allegation or investigation open with regard to that settlement. The settlement does not indicate any fault. If we continued to drag the litigation on, it would have cost twice as much potentially of the legal fees. So at the advice of our counsel, legal counsel, we evaluated the cost of the time that was involved to fight the case and determined it would be more fiscally responsible to settle rather than spend a fortune just to win. And by the way, I never trespassed. I took those pictures from the road. I was never on the Dunphy property. No allegations were ever filed about any of these things. This was just a lawsuit that was threatened. I could spend the next hour doing this, but I'm not going to do that. I appreciate the time that you've given me, but there's just simply too much to go over one by one. As always, I'd be happy to answer any legitimate questions, specifically with Ms. Morgan, if she'd like to do that, or concerns that our residents have. But I can't see continuing to allow the truth to be manipulated at every turn and to the detriment of my name, my reputation, my family, this council, our employees, their families, and the residents of Delran. Instead, I would suggest that we're going to go back and do the real work. So I thank you for giving me the time to make that statement, Council President, and I will make no further comment. Thank you.
All right, great. Next up, I do need a motion for resolution 2022-39, authorizing executive session to discuss potential litigation regarding Oprah.
So moved, Virginia.
Second, Lynn?
Jamie, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Jenny,
Aye.
Ms. Pareo,
Aye.
Mr. Lyon,
Aye.
Mr. Burrell.
Aye. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. We'll now go into executive closed session. For those members of the public, we're going to be leaving this Zoom to go into executive session. I hope we're not there long. Hopefully it's quick. And then we'll be back in this meeting to take any public action, which will be in public, or to adjourn the meeting. So we'll be back shortly. You want to go on the record? All right, we're on the record back into our public session on February 1st, 2022. There's no action to be taken in public. Can I ask, or there's no action at all to be taken. So can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Tom Line.
Second, Lynn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Good evening.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.